Do you truly understand what employment means? Signing a contract, and from that moment, your life belonging to someone else. That's what I'm talking about. Still not getting it? By the time you finish hearing this story, you'll surely understand. My name is Spencer Davis. 7 years ago, I signed a contract with Wonderworld. I intended it to be temporary. Now, my contract period ends in 3 more weeks. I never intend to renew it again. But you just signed the contract today. So I thought I'd tell you what you need to know. Wonderworld isn't an ordinary workplace. It took me 7 years to understand that. You don't have that kind of time. I didn't want this job. Let me start there. In college, I thought I understood life. I was supposed to graduate with a business degree, work at a gleaming desk in a gleaming building, and climb the career ladder like everyone said I should. But life has a strange habit of throwing people in unexpected directions. One failing grade became two, and before I knew it, I was falling behind. The pressure to catch up felt like trying to crawl out of quicksand. I told myself I'd take just one semester off, a break to get my head straight. My parents didn't like it, and neither did my friends. But I thought I could bounce back. I couldn't bounce back. The longer the break lasted, the harder it became to return to school. Universities aren't built for people who stop. The world moves on without you, and eventually you become stuck, watching it pass by. I needed something stable, something to rely on while I sorted things out. That's what brought me to Wonderworld. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. The plan was to work here for a while, save up some cash, and eventually go back to school. That was 7 years ago. I started working as a ride operator. My job back then was simple. Pull levers, smile at customers, make sure nobody was throwing up in the seats. It wasn't glamorous, but the pay was better than I expected. Much better than it should have been. I didn't think deeply about it. Why would you question good pay? But things changed. They always do. I got promoted to manager. Not as impressive as it sounds. I don't sit in an office or wear a suit. Mostly, I walk around the park making sure everything runs smoothly. Give people instructions, fill out reports, handle complaints, step in when something goes wrong. A lot of things go wrong, more than you'd think. Let me tell you about Wonderworld. It looks like a regular amusement park, opened in the 80s. During the theme park boom, when everyone was trying to cash in on Disney's success. And it shows. You can tell they were going for the same kind of magical experience. Colorful rides, cheerful mascots, themed areas that make you feel like you've stepped into another world. But Wonderworld lacks Disney's polish. It's like looking at a knockoff. A good knockoff. The kids love it anyway. Families come from all over to spend a day. We've got roller coasters, spinning teacups, a log ride, and all the classics you'd expect. There are themed sections: Candle Cove, Galactic Frontier, Enchanted Forest, and others. The food is overpriced. The mascot costumes never get washed, and we've been using the same theme music for decades. It's not a bad place. Really, it has its own charm. But when you work as an employee, you start noticing things that guests don't. Little details that don't quite add up. That's where the rules come in. Wonderworld has a lot of rules. Most of them are what you'd expect. Show up on time, wear your uniform, smile at customers. But there are other rules. Ones they don't teach you in orientation. Ones you only learn after being here long enough. I'm getting ahead of myself, but since you're new here, there's a lot to cover. Welcome to the Wonderworld family. Before the park even opens, there's the most important rule you need to know. A rule that's not in the employee handbook. Always wear your ID when using the tunnels. Let me explain. Under the park, there's a massive network of back doors, corridors, and strange little rooms that we simply call the tunnels. It's like a secret underground city, except instead of bright lights and cheerful music, there's bare concrete, flickering fluorescence, and the monotonous hum of machinery. The tunnels are a way for employees to move around without guests noticing, to maintain the illusion. If a kid visiting Wonderworld sees someone dragging garbage bags or pushing a mop, it breaks the magic a little, right? The tunnels solve that. You can duck through one door, disappear below ground, and emerge somewhere completely different. It's practical, even efficient, but it's not normal. You'd think a set of corridors and back rooms wouldn't be that big a deal. I mean, how complicated could it be? But the tunnels don't follow the rules of logic, or physics, for that matter. I don't know who designed them, or if anyone actually did, but they don't make sense. Doors don't always open where they should. Some of them open onto brick walls. Others lead to empty rooms with a single red chair in the center. There are stairs that go straight up to the ceiling, and doors that drop down to garbage chutes below. Maps don't help much either. There are a few scattered around the tunnels, but they're old and faded with water stains that blur the lines. Half the time, the maps don't match the actual layout. Hallways that should be there simply aren't. Other times, there's a door where there should be a hallway, or vice versa. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I need you to believe me. This place messes with your head. That's why you always wear your ID. It's a small plastic badge on a lanyard that goes around your neck, with your name and photo printed on the front. You'll get one when you start. At first, I thought it was just for security purposes, so people know you're not some random person wandering around. But it's more than that. Your ID prevents you from getting lost. I can't explain how it works. I honestly don't know. It's not like there's a built-in GPS or something, but when you're wearing your ID, the tunnels don't seem as confusing. Hallways feel shorter. Doors lead where they should. And those weird rooms with the single red chair? You don't find them as often, at least. My grandmother used to tell stories about spirits that liked to play tricks on people. They'd make people lose their way, mess with them, make places feel like mazes when they shouldn't. She said the only way to escape was to wear your clothes inside out. I thought it was just superstition, something old people said to scare kids into behaving. But after working here, I'm not so sure. The tunnels feel like the kind of place spirits would play, or maybe something worse. Either way, your ID works like that trick my grandmother talked about. It keeps you anchored to reality, lets the place know you're not a stranger. I think it makes you recognized as part of the park. Without it, you're prey. I learned it the hard way. Once, when I was still a ride operator, I forgot my ID at home. I thought it wasn't a big deal. The park wasn't open yet, and my shift was at the carousel. But first I needed to get a toolkit from the storage room in the underground tunnels. I thought I knew the way. The first corridor looked normal. Bare concrete walls, some metal doors, signs pointing to the nearest exit. I passed one of the old maps and ignored it. Then I turned left. Or was it right? The corridor stretched longer than it should have. Much longer. My footsteps were absorbed by the damp concrete, and the fluorescent lights flickered irregularly. The air was heavy, mixed with the smell of metal and mold, and there were more doors than there should have been, all unmarked. The storage room should have been right next to the entrance, but it wasn't there. I tried opening random doors, hoping to find the toolkit, but most of them opened to solid brick walls. Then I saw the stairs, going upward, steep and narrow, disappearing above. I thought they might lead to the surface, so I started climbing, but the stairs never ended. It felt like hours, but it was probably just minutes. I realized I wasn't getting anywhere. The stairs stopped at a blank ceiling. I turned around to go back, but the stairs didn't look the same. The straight staircase I had climbed was now a spiral, curving down toward a light below. Looking down, I noticed landings, floors I hadn't passed while climbing up. Some had doors, others were empty corridors. None looked familiar. I hurried away from the impossible stairs and rushed back the way I came. I kept walking, hoping I could find my way by retracing my steps. Eventually, I saw an exit. The metal door was the same as the others, but a red sign on the front told me this was the exit. I pushed through and stepped out, expecting to find myself near the storage room where I started. I wasn't. I was on the opposite side of the park. The entrance to Galactic Frontier was ahead of me. The Ferris wheel towered in the distance. But it wasn't right. I had entered the underground tunnels in the center of the park, near the carousel. I shouldn't have been here. I didn't think about it. I didn't try to explain it. I just went home, got my ID, and made sure never to forget it again. The underground tunnels haven't bothered me since. Not everyone was so lucky. There was a man named Aaron who started working here around the same time as me. He thought the rules were more like suggestions. He had a curious nature and wasn't afraid to bend the rules. This was 6 months ago. He entered the underground tunnels without an ID. Not only that, but without any of the basic equipment for night shift work. We found him 3 days later. He was curled up near an emergency exit. He was shaking and muttering about back rooms and doors that opened to nowhere. His clothes were dirty, his eyes unfocused, as if he hadn't slept for days. He's been different ever since that day. His former brightness disappeared, but instead his eyes held a deep fear and resignation, as if he understood something. Now I always wear my ID even above ground. It's like a second skin, a small piece of plastic I never take for granted. So if you're new here, take my advice. Always wear your ID. But an ID alone isn't enough. Aaron's experience taught us that night shift work requires much more preparation. There are basic rules you need to remember. Always carry black licorice during night shifts. When I pulled out a small bag from my pocket, you looked puzzled. For me, who had been doing this job for 7 years, this was a natural habit. The contents of the bag were special black licorice candies with fine salt crystals on the surface. Completely different from common sweet licorice, these were bitter and special. Why licorice? Everyone asks this question at first. I asked my senior the same thing when I was new. At the time, I was skeptical and never imagined that candy would become a lifeline for night shift work. You'll understand the reason later. For now, just follow along. I took one out of the bag and bit into it. The bitter taste spread through my mouth. At that moment, I felt like the surrounding air had changed slightly. Also, always carry white chalk. Keep it in your uniform pocket. Regular school chalk is fine, but always use new ones. Once used, they lose their effectiveness. I remember when Aaron returned last month. On his first night shift after returning from 6 months of sick leave, I gave him the same explanation, but he interrupted me and said,
"The licorice. They don't like it, do they?"
At that moment, I understood. Aaron had seen something underground. He had learned something. His eyes held a deep fear and understanding that newcomers never have.
"I heard them underground too,"
he said in a trembling voice.
"but at that time, I could only run. I kept running for 6 months."
It's different now. I patted his shoulder. Now you know how to deal with them. Knowledge softens fear. An ID alone wasn't enough. We needed much more defense. An ID proves your identity. It shows that we are legitimate employees, the first line of defense. I placed my hand on your shoulder. But during night shifts, never walk around alone, especially between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. During this time, different rules apply than during the day. It's when the theme park's magic is weakest and something else becomes stronger. Chalk is the last resort in emergencies. Draw a circle on the ground and stand inside it. The circle must be at least 2 meters in diameter, and the line must not be broken. The licorice. Well, you'd better experience this for yourself. I checked my watch. 11:45 p.m. Soon it would be time for Wonderworld's true face to appear. The park that had been filled with children's laughter during the day was now wrapped in silence, with only street lights casting dim light. I'll accompany you tonight. It's too dangerous for you alone. I took out my flashlight and checked that it worked. I don't want you to learn the lesson Aaron learned in the same way. That's why I'm going to teach you everything. Wear your ID, carry licorice, don't forget chalk, and above all, don't be alone. In Wonderworld at night, we are never truly alone. Now, let's begin the actual patrol. The first route is the Candle Cove area. 1 hour after finishing the explanation, we entered the first patrol route, 2:15 a.m. As we walked through the dim passages of the Candle Cove area, it appeared. At first, it was a faint vibration, a regular tremor transmitted through the soles of our feet. Then, that sound began to be heard. Don't move. I grabbed your arm. Don't turn around. Slowly hide behind me. Footsteps could be heard, but they weren't ordinary footsteps. They were a pattering sound, as if wet cloth was being dragged across the ground. Mixed with that sound, we could occasionally hear the creaking of metal scraping. I took out licorice from my pocket and quickly threw it into my mouth. This is a midnight visitor, I explained in a low voice. They never appear during the day. Only security guards encounter them. They don't exist in any official records. The sound gradually approached. My heart was beating fast. I had experienced this many times over 7 years, but I never got used to it. Rather, the fear deepened with each occurrence. Chew the licorice. I handed you the bag. It's bitter, but bear with it. As I explained earlier, they fear whatever this taste represents. Your hands were shaking. I was the same at first, but seeing the seriousness of my expression, you complied. When the bitter liquid spread through your mouth, something strange happened. The footsteps stopped. Silence continued. 30 seconds, 1 minute, then 2 minutes. During this time, we waited, holding our breath. The air was heavy, as if we were underwater. Eventually, the sound moved away. The same pattering sound now headed in the opposite direction and disappeared. Good job. I breathed a sigh of relief. We'll be safe for a while now. Once they retreat, they won't appear again on the same night. You looked at me with a pale face. The trembling hadn't stopped yet.
This is every night?
No, not every night, but we don't know when they'll appear. That's why we always need to be prepared. I patted your shoulder lightly. You were lucky tonight. You handled it correctly. You repelled on your first day what Aaron spent 6 months running from. Looking at my watch, it was past 2:30 a.m. The night was still long, but we had overcome the first trial. Let's move to the next area. I began walking. Wonderworld at night has other residents. There are things you need to know. As we left the Candle Cove area and headed through the central plaza toward the Galactic Frontier area, I spoke to you. You saw the mascots during the day, didn't you?
Yes. They were taking pictures with children. Captain Cosmic and Star Princess.
Right. Now let me tell you about them at night. I stopped and turned toward you. During the day and night, they become completely different beings. What I'm about to show you will never appear in official records. The entrance to the space-themed area came into view. The place that had been filled with lively background music during the day now echoed only with the sound of wind. 3 a.m. The galactic frontier area was completely wrapped in silence. Only street lights cast dim light. During the day, lively space-themed music had played, but now only the sound of wind could be heard. Look over there. I pointed to a distant building. Captain Cosmic. On top of the spaceship-shaped playground equipment sat a giant doll in a blue spacesuit. But unlike during the day, it wasn't waving to children. It was just staring at us. The inside of the helmet was dark, and its expression couldn't be seen, but it was definitely tracking us. At night, they take different actions. I placed my hand on your shoulder. They don't perform like during the day. They show their true nature. You'd better abandon the assumption that there are people inside them. Captain Cosmic slowly stood up. The movement was too smooth to believe there was a person inside, yet simultaneously unnatural. Joints were bending at angles they shouldn't bend. From inside the space suit, a faint mechanical sound echoed. It's approaching. I pulled you into the shadow of a building. Hide. Don't make eye contact. They can sense your gaze. Thud, thud, thud. Regular footsteps echoed. But those sounds were different from ordinary footsteps. They were like hollow metal striking the ground, empty and resonant. I counted in my mind. Usually, they stop within 30 steps. 26, 27, 28. The footsteps stopped. I held your hand. Your hand was cold as ice. They know of the security guard's presence. I explained in a low voice. But they're not aggressive. They're just patrolling their territory in their own way. This is their world, too. 5 minutes later, the footsteps moved away. This time it was a different, lighter sound than when it came, as if it were floating. I breathed a sigh of relief. This is the reality of Wonderworld at night. It has a completely different face from the magical world of daytime. Two worlds exist in the same place. I checked my watch. 3:20 a.m. The night was still long. On Aaron's second day back, he told me, underground, I saw older versions of them. Rusted, torn, but still moving. The original mascots. They never retire. Your expression hardened. Seeing that reaction, I continued, we won't go underground tonight. But eventually, you'll see them too. The true history of Wonderworld. We left the galactic frontier area in silence. The encounter with Captain Cosmic was your first genuine contact with the night visitors. Your steps were still stiff, and I could see you occasionally glancing back. You were walking carefully to avoid making noise, but I could tell your breathing was shallow from tension. I understand how you feel, I said as we headed toward the enchanted forest area. Everyone has the same reaction at first, but you've heard various stories from other security guards, urban legends, ghost stories, all kinds of rumors circulate. This job has many tales that get passed down. 3:45 a.m. Our shift was nearing its end. However, the most important conversation had yet to take place. The forest area was a beautiful place that recreated a fairy tale world during the day, but at night, the shadows of ancient trees created eerie shapes. With the memory of Captain Cosmic still fresh, the atmosphere of this place felt even more unsettling. You must have heard about the underground incident too. I stopped and faced you. During the 6 months Aaron went missing, what he saw, what he experienced. He hasn't talked about it in detail, but I know about his changes. His hair color, The light in his eyes, the way he speaks, everything changed. You stared at me with a tense expression. Perhaps the recent experience was still weighing on your mind, as there was still a trace of fear in your eyes. There's truth in some of the rumors, I said while staying alert to our surroundings. But don't believe everything. Verify with your own eyes and judge from your own experience. The most important thing in this job is to trust your instincts. The fear you felt earlier wasn't wrong either. Something moved in the distance. A white shadow was slowly moving through the trees. It was Fairy Princess, but it wasn't the graceful movement of daytime. It moved like a marionette, its joints moving stiffly. The hem of her dress dragged on the ground, and faintly glowing powder scattered in the air. She too becomes a different being at night. I grabbed your arm. Don't approach her. Those who have seen her night form can never look at her the same way during the day. Children's smiles won't look the same either. The white shadow seemed to recognize us. Her head slowly rotated in our direction, 180 degrees, completely facing backward, then continued rotating to stare at us. Her tiara glittered in the moonlight. You let out a small groan. A different kind of fear from the Captain Cosmic encounter appeared on your face. We quietly left the area. Fairy Princess seemed to see us off, continuing to rotate only her neck. We felt that unnatural gaze until she disappeared into the forest shadows. This is reality, I said to you as we walked. Wonderworld has two faces, the magical daytime world and the nighttime. Otherworld. Both are real. Both are part of this place. Just keep moving. I advised you. The rules are clear. Follow them and you'll be safe. But never let your guard down. And don't forget, getting used to it is dangerous. The moment you lose your fear, real danger begins. 4 a.m. was approaching. Soon, Wonderworld's long night would end. But our work continues. Tomorrow, the day after, and until you take my position. If you continue this job, someday you'll teach someone else the same things. When that time comes, tell them the truth, just as I've told you. Lies and deception can sometimes be fatal. I looked into your eyes. They still had the shine of a newcomer. But tonight's experience was definitely changing something. Finally, there's something I need to teach you. I stopped walking. Everything I've told you so far are rules for the surface. But if, in an absolutely unavoidable situation, you have to enter the underground, completely different rules apply. Your expression tensed again. Underground. That name alone made the air feel heavy. Aaron first entered the underground 3 years ago in December. Looking back, that was the beginning of everything. At that time, the main attraction in Galactic Frontier broke down, and we needed to check the underground wiring due to electrical problems. Normally it would be a job for specialists, but budget cuts meant we had to handle it. I continued while gazing into the distance. Aaron and I went down to the underground with flashlights. For the first 30 minutes, nothing happened. The work of checking the wiring diagrams and identifying the malfunction was proceeding smoothly. But when Aaron went alone to check a circuit breaker in the back, I noticed something. His flashlight beam was flickering unnaturally, as if swaying underwater. You were listening to my story with bated breath. Inside the underground, there are old maintenance emergency lamps scattered around. Old-style sodium lamps that emit a weak orange light. As long as you stay within the range of those lamps' light, you're still safe. When moving from lamp to lamp, always run. Don't walk. Don't stop. Don't look back. The clock hand pointed to 4 a.m., the end of the night shift. But the most important part of the story was yet to come. Aaron, come back. I called to him, but there was no response. Only his flashlight continued to sway like waves in the darkness. I hurried to the nearest sodium lamp and looked toward Aaron from there. I could see his silhouette, but something was wrong. His movements had become abnormally slow, like slow motion footage. "Aaron!" This time I shouted loudly. Then his flashlight beam slowly turned toward me, but the face that emerged in that light was no longer Aaron. His expression had completely vanished. His eyes were open, but his pupils were abnormally dilated and unfocused. His mouth was half open, as if trying to say something, but he wasn't making any sound. I ran to the next sodium lamp. Looking at Aaron from there, he was still standing in the same place, but his body was slowly turning toward me, like a rusty machine. A grinding sound, like metal scraping against metal, echoed through the darkness. At that moment, I understood. The underground's night visitors could possess people. I took out my radio with trembling hands and tried to contact security, but inside the underground, radio waves didn't reach. My cell phone had no signal either. I was completely isolated. Aaron was still standing in the same place. His body was completely facing me, but as if he understood that I was within the sodium lamp's light range, he remained motionless, like a predator waiting for its prey. I measured the distance to the next lamp, about 15 meters. If I ran at full speed, I could reach it within 5 seconds, but I would have to pass near Aaron on the way. With determination, I started running. The moment I passed by Aaron, his hand touched my arm. In that instant, an ice-cold sensation ran through my body. It was viscous, like sinking into mud. An indescribable revulsion, as if something was penetrating deep into my body. I desperately broke free and reached the next lamp. When I looked back, Aaron was standing in his original position again, but this time, his mouth was moving.
Spencer.
I heard his voice, but it was clearly not Aaron's voice. It was lower, distorted, like multiple voices overlapping, an otherworldly sound. I ran toward the surface. I climbed the stairs, and the moment I passed through the underground entrance, I felt how warm the outside air was. Then I immediately contacted headquarters. The headquarters response was unusually swift. 30 minutes later, a specialist team arrived at Wonderworld. They were men in black suits who wouldn't reveal their names or affiliations. They seemed accustomed to this kind of incident, handling everything with practiced efficiency. They went down to the underground. I was instructed to wait on the surface. 2 hours later, they returned with Aaron. Aaron was unconscious. His complexion was deathly pale, and his body temperature was abnormally low. But he was definitely alive. His pulse was weak, but regular.
He won't remember anything.
The team leader told me in a calm tone.
I recommend you forget about tonight as well, for everyone's sake.
The next day, Aaron came to work as if nothing had happened. He had completely lost his memory of the previous night. When I asked him about the underground incident, he would just tilt his head in genuine confusion, saying,
Wiring inspection? What are you talking about?
The official record stated, a minor accident occurred during electrical system inspection work. The relevant employee suffered mild disorientation but made a complete recovery the following day. But I knew Aaron hadn't completely returned. Sometimes his eyes would become vacant. In the middle of conversations, he would suddenly stop moving and show an expression as if listening to some voice, and he began unconsciously looking toward the underground more often. 3 years have passed since then. It's now the end of March, cherry blossom season. I'll be resigning in 3 weeks. Officially, it's for a career change, but the real reason is different. I can't stay here any longer. After Aaron's incident, I began noticing subtle changes in other staff members. After the specialist team came for the underground incident, several staff members gradually changed. Their laughter became mechanical, or they would stare toward the underground alone during breaks. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, workplace stress, or perhaps my own paranoia. But last summer, I witnessed decisive evidence. During a night shift patrol, I encountered Michaela, one of the older staff members at Candle Cove. She had been working here for 5 years, always cheerful, popular with the children. But that night, she was different. In the darkness, she stood completely still like a doll. When I approached, she turned mechanically as if rotating only her neck. At that moment, my spine froze. Her eyes were exactly the same as Aaron's 3 years ago, pupils dilated, unfocused, empty eyes, as if her soul had been drained. I ran away. The next day, Michaela was working normally. She wore her usual bright smile, talking happily with the children, but I knew she was no longer completely herself. Wonderworld gradually changes its employees, and no one notices. Even if they do, they don't record it. Let me confirm the rules I told you once more. Never eat black licorice. Don't cross white chalk lines. Don't interact with night visitors. If a mascot changes, leave immediately. And the most important rule: never enter the underground, no matter what the reason. But even following these rules doesn't guarantee complete safety. Wonderworld itself changes its employees, slowly, gradually, without anyone noticing. What I learned from working here for 7 years is that this theme park isn't just an entertainment facility. It's some kind of experimental site. I don't know what kind of experiment, but we're all test subjects. If you continue working here, check yourself regularly. Every morning, look in the mirror and check your own eyes. Ask friends and family about changes in you. If they point out changes, consider resigning immediately without asking for reasons, so you don't end up like me. I'm leaving here in 3 weeks, but you'll still remain here. I sincerely pray that you'll be safe, and if you feel any abnormality, don't hesitate to run from this wonder world. Finally, I have something to give you. I took out an old notebook from my locker. The cover was faded, and the page edges were yellowed. 7 years of records were contained within. This is my observation log. Abnormal events, staff changes, rule discoveries. Everything I've experienced is written here. I entrust this notebook to you. As my successor, please use it to protect new employees. But be careful. Don't let management know about this notebook's existence. There may be changed individuals among them too. It's difficult to distinguish between those you can trust and those you can't. Share information gradually only with colleagues you trust, and continue keeping records yourself. I checked my watch. 5 p.m. My final work hours had ended. Your first day is tomorrow. Good luck, and be careful. I handed the notebook to you and headed toward Wonderworld's employee entrance. Looking back, you were still standing there, holding the notebook to your chest with an anxious expression. Understandable. I must have had the same expression 7 years ago. I waved lightly and left this place forever. I sincerely pray that you'll be safe. This is where my story ends. You now hold this notebook in your hands. How much time has passed since I left Wonderworld? My sense of time has become vague. But the fact that you're reading this means you're still working at Wonderworld, and you're probably starting to notice some abnormalities too. Do you remember my advice? Check yourself regularly. Every morning, look in the mirror and check your own eyes. Ask friends and family about changes. And if you truly feel danger, don't hesitate to run, like I did. But if you choose to remain here, Please continue updating this notebook for new employees. Record your observations, update the rules, and pass them on to the next generation. Wonderworld won't change, but we can change. By protecting each other, we can survive. I pray for your safety. And until the day you pass this notebook to the next person, be careful. Spencer Davis.